Krishna. That's a bit loud.
Just got requests to start using microphones. People are not
complaining. Yes, microphones.
I can bring it.
Yeah.
Well,
You can hook it to
Bring it
the
closer.
or how?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Really.
We're gonna have microphone today. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is described that hearing the glories of the Lord is the best medicine against the disease of repeated birth and death. And it is not like other types of medicines for other diseases in this world, which are usually bitter. You know, medicine is not something pleasant to take, but this medicine, the glories of the Lord, It is the best medicine and it is sweet at the same time. So we are very fortunate to again be able to hear these glories from Krishna book today. And today, for the first time, we hopefully have a microphone so that nobody has to struggle hearing us.
That means we have to sit closer.
No? Yes, yes. No. It can expand. It can expand.
You want the extension?
No, this is fine, I think.
Yes.
Extension.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're not all fixed on the
Screen.
Right.
Not off on the screen.
so we can find our we can try to extend.
Here we go. So just
Okay, go for it, yeah.
yeah.
So reading from the Krishna book, this is chapter 45, Uddhava visits Vrindavan. Okay, so if we all chant together, Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Pahimam. We got there. And Nanda Maharaj returned to Vrindavan without Krishna and Balaram. He was accompanied only by the cowherd boys and men. It was certainly a very pathetic scene for the gopis. Mother Yashoda, Srimati Radharani and all the residents of Vrindavan. Many devotees have tried to make adjustments to Krishna's being away from Vrindavan because according to expert opinion, Krishna, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, never goes even a step out of Vrindavan. He always remains there. The explanation of expert devotees is that Krishna was not actually absent from Vrindavan. He came back with Nanda Maharaj as promised. When Krishna was going to Mathura on the chariot, driven by Akura, the gopis were blocking the way. Krishna assured them that he was coming back just after finishing his business in Mathura. He told them not to be overwhelmed and in this way pacified them. But when he failed to come back with Nanda Maharaj, it appeared that he either cheated them or could not keep his promise. Expert devotees, however, have decided that Krishna was neither a cheater nor a breaker of promises. Krishna, in his original identity, returned with Nanda Maharaj and stayed with the gopis and Mother Yashoda in his Bhav expansion. Krishna and Balaram remained in Mathura, not in their original forms, but in their expansions as Vasudeva and Sankirtan. The real
Krishna and Balaram were in Vrindavan in their Bhava manifestation, whereas in Mathura they appeared in the Prabhava and Vaibhava expansions. This is the expert opinion of advanced devotees of Krishna. When Nanda Maharaj was preparing to return to Vrindavan, there was discussion among him, Krishna and Balaram, as to how the boys could live in separation from Nanda. The conclusion to separate was reached by mutual agreement. Vasudeva and Devaki, who happened to be Krishna and Balaram's real parents, wanted to keep them now because of the death of Kamsa. While Kamsa was alive, Krishna and Balaram were kept under the protection of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. Now, naturally, the father and mother of Krishna and Balaram wanted them to remain, specifically for the reformatory function of purification, the sacred thread ceremony. They also wanted to give them a proper education, for this is the duty of the father. Another consideration was that all the friends of Kamsa, outside Mathura, were planning to attack Mathura. For that reason also, Krishna's presence was required. Krishna did not want Vrindavan disturbed by enemies like Dantavakra and Jarasandha. If Krishna were to go to Vrindavan, these enemies would not only attack Mathura, but would go on to Vrindavan, and the peaceful inhabitants of Vrindavan would be disturbed. Krishna therefore decided to remain in Mathura. And Nanda Maharaj went back to Vrindavan. Although the inhabitants of Vrindavan felt separation from Krishna, Krishna was always present with them by his Leela or pastimes, and this made them ecstatic. Since Krishna had departed from Vrindavan to Mathura, the inhabitants of Vrindavana, especially Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, Srimati Radharani, the gopis, and the cowherd boys were simply thinking of Krishna at every step. They were thinking, Krishna was playing in this way, Krishna was blowing his flute, Krishna was joking with us, and Krishna was embracing us. This is called Lila Smarana. And it is the process of association with Krishna most recommended by great devotees. Even Lord Chaitanya, when he was at Puri, enjoyed Lila Smarana association with Krishna. Those in the most exalted position of devotional service and ecstasy can live with Krishna always by remembering his pastimes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a transcendental literature entitled Krishna Bhavanamrita, which is full with Krishna's pastimes. Devotees can remain absorbed in Krishna
and Krishna thoughts by reading such books. Okay. Any book of Krishna Leela, even this book, Krishna, or our teachings of Lord Chaitanya, is actually solace for devotees feeling separation of Krishna. That Krishna and Balaram did not come to Vrindavan can be adjusted as follows. They did not break their promise to return to Vrindavan, nor were they absent, but their presence was necessary in Mathura. In the meantime, Uddhava, a cousin brother of Krishna, came to see Krishna from Dwarka. He was the son of Vasudev's brother and was almost the same age as Krishna. His bodily features resembled Krishna's almost exactly. After Krishna returned from his teacher's home, Krishna was pleased to see Uddhava, who happened to be his dearmost friend. Krishna wanted to send him to Vrindavan with a message to the residents to pacify their deep feelings of separation. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yata mam prabhantantye. Krishna is very responsible. He responds in proportion to the devotee's advancement in devotional service. The gopis were thinking of Krishna in separation 24 hours a day. Krishna also was always thinking of the gopis, Mother Yashoda, Nandamraj, and the residents of Vrindavan. Although he appeared to be away from them, he could understand how they were transcendently aggrieved, and so he immediately wanted to send Uddhava to give them a message of solace. Uddhava is described as the most exalted personality in the Vrishni dynasty, being almost equal to Krishna. He was a great friend, and being the direct student of Bhishpati, the teacher and priest of the heavenly planets. He was very intelligent and sharp in decision. Intellectually, he was highly qualified. Krishna, being a very loving friend of Uddhava, wanted to send him to Vrindavan just to study the highly elevated, ecstatic devotional service practiced there. Even if one is highly elevated in material education and is even the disciple of Bhishpati, he still has to learn from the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan how to love Krishna to the highest degree. Sending Uddhava to Vrindavan with a message to the residents of Vrindavan to pacify them was Krishna's special favour to Uddhava. Krishna is also named Hari, which means one who takes away all distress from the surrendered souls. Lord Chaitanya states that there cannot be at any time a worship as exalted as
that realized by the gopis. Being very anxious about the gopis' grief, Krishna talked with Uddhava and politely requested him to go to Vrindavan. Shaking Uddhava's hand with his own hands, he said, "My dear gentle friend Uddhava, please go immediately to Vrindavan and try to pacify my father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi and the gopis. They are grief-stricken, as if suffering from great ailments. Go and give them a message. I hope their ailments will be partially relieved. The gopis are always absorbed in thoughts of me. They have dedicated body, desire, life and soul to me. I am anxious not only for the gopis, but for anyone who sacrifices society, friendship, love and personal comforts for me. It is my duty to protect such exalted devotees. The gopis are the most dear. They always think of me in such a way that they remain overwhelmed and almost dead in anxiety due to separation from me. They are keeping alive simply by thinking that I am returning to them very soon. Requested by Lord Krishna, Uddhava immediately left on his chariot and carried the message to Gokula. He approached Vrindavan at sunset, when the cows were returning home from the pasturing ground. Uddhava and his chariot were covered by the dust raised by the hooves of the cows. He saw bulls running after cows for mating. Other cows with overladen milk bags were running after the calves to fill them with milk. Uddhava saw that the entire land of Vrindavan was filled with white cows and their calves, running here and there over Gokula, and he could hear the sound of milking. Every residential house in Vrindavan was decorated for the worship of the sun god and the fire god, and for the reception of guests, cows, brahmanas, and demigods. Every home was sanctified by lights and incense. All over Vrindavan there were nice gardens filled with flowers and the humming sounds of the bees and birds. The lakes were filled with lotus flowers and with ducks and swans. Uddhava entered the house of Nanda Maharaj and was received as a representative of Vasudeva. Nanda Maharaj offered him a place and sat down with him to ask about messages from Krishna, Balaram, and other family members in Mathura. He could understand that Uddhava was a very confidential friend of Krishna and therefore must have come with good messages. "My dear Uddhava," he said, "how is my friend Vasudeva enjoying life? Is he now released from the prison of Kamsa? And he is now with his friends and his children, Krishna and Balaram, so he must be very happy."
Tell me about him and his welfare. We are also very happy about Kamsa, the most sinful demon, is now killed. He was always envious of the family of the Yadus, his friends and relatives. Now, because of his sinful activities, he is dead and gone, along with his brothers. Please let us know whether Krishna now remembers his father and mother, his friends and companions in Vrindavan. Does he like to remember his cows, his gopis, his Govardhan hill, his pasturing grounds in Vrindavan, or has he now forgotten all these? Is there any possibility of his coming back to his friends and relatives so we can see again his beautiful face with its raised nose and lotus-like eyes? We remember how he saved us from the forest fire, how he saved us from the great snake Kalia in the Yamuna, and how he saved us from so many other demons. And we simply think of how much we are obliged to him for giving us protection in many dangerous situations. My dear Uddhava, when we think of Krishna's beautiful face and his eyes and his different activities here in Vrindavan, we become so overwhelmed that all our activities cease. We simply think of Krishna, how he used to smile and how he looked up upon us. When we go to the banks of the Yamuna or the lakes of Vrindavan or near Govardhan Hill or the pasturing field, we see that the impressions of Krishna's footprints are still on the surface of the earth. We remember him playing in all these places because he was constantly visiting them. When his appearance within our minds becomes manifest, we immediately become absorbed in thoughts of him. We think, therefore, that Krishna and Balaram may be chief demigods in heaven, who have appeared before us like ordinary boys to execute particular duties on earth. There was also foretold by Gargamuni when making Krishna's horoscope, if Krishna were not a great personality, how could he have killed Kamsa, who possessed the strength of 10,000 elephants? Besides Kamsa, there were very strong wrestlers as well as the giant elephant, Kavilyapida. Krishna killed all these animals and demons just as a lion kills an ordinary animal. How wonderful it is that Krishna took in one hand the big heavy bow made of 3 jointed palm trees and broke it very quickly. How wonderful it is that for 7 days continuously he held up Govardhan Hill with one hand. How wonderful it is that he killed all the demons like Palambasura, Denikasura, Aristasura, Trinavata and Bakasura. They were so strong that even the demigods in the heavenly planets were afraid of them.
But Krishna killed them as easily as anything. While describing the uncommon activities of Krishna before Uddhava, Nanda Maharaj gradually became overwhelmed and could no longer speak. As for Mother Yashoda, she sat by the side of her husband and heard the pastimes of Krishna without speaking. She simply cried incessantly, and milk poured from her breasts. When Uddhava saw Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda so extraordinarily overwhelmed with thoughts of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when he experienced their extraordinary affection for him, he also became overwhelmed and spoke as follows. My dear Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, you are most respectable among human beings because no one but you can meditate in such transcendental ecstasy. Uddhava continued, both Balaram and Krishna are the original personalities of Godhead from whom the cosmic manifestation emanates. They are chief among all personalities. Both of them are the effective cause of this material creation. Material nature is conducted by the Purusha incarnations, who all act under Krishna and Balaram. By their partial representation, they enter the hearts of all living entities. They are the source of all knowledge and all forgetfulness also. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. I am present in everyone's heart, and I cause one to remember and forget. I am the original compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the actual knower of the Vedas. Uddhava continued, if at the time of death a person can fix his pure mind upon Krishna even for a moment, he becomes eligible to give up this material body and appear in his original spiritual body, just as the sun rises with all illumination. Passing from his life in this way, he immediately enters into the spiritual kingdom by Vaikuntha. Unquote. This is the result of Krishna conscious practice. If we practice Krishna consciousness in this present body while in a healthy condition and in good mind, simply by chanting the holy Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, we will have every possibility of fixing the mind upon Krishna at the time of death. If we do this, then our lives become successful without any doubt. But if we keep our minds always absorbed in fruitive activities for material enjoyment, then naturally at the time of death we shall think of such activities and again be forced to enter material, conditioned bodies to suffer the threefold miseries of material existence. Therefore, to remain always absorbed
in Krishna consciousness was the standard of the inhabitants of Vrindavan as exhibited by Maharaj Nanda, Yashoda and the gopis. If we can simply follow in their footsteps even to minute proportion, our lives will surely become successful and we shall enter the spiritual kingdom Vaikuntha. My dear Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, Uddhava continued, you have thus fixed your minds wholly and solely upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. In his transcendental form, the cause of impersonal Brahman, the Brahman effulgence is only the bodily ray of Narayan. And because you are always absorbed in ecstatic thoughts of Krishna and Balaram, what activity remains for you to perform? I have brought a message from Krishna that he will soon come back to Vrindavan and satisfy you both by his personal presence. Krishna promised that he would come back to Vrindavan after finishing his business in Mathura. This promise he will surely fulfill. I therefore request you both, who are the best amongst all who are fortunate, not to be aggrieved on account of Krishna's absence. You are already perceiving his presence 24 hours a day, yet he will come and see you very soon. Actually, he is present everywhere and in everyone's heart, just as fire is present in wood. Since Krishna is a super soul, no one is his enemy. No one is his friend, no one is his equal to him, and no one is lower or higher than him. He actually has no father, mother, brother, or relative, nor does he require society, friendship, and love. He does not have a material body. He never appears or takes birth as an ordinary human being. He does not appear in higher or lower species of life like ordinary living entities who are forced to take birth on account of their previous activities. He appears by his internal potency just to give protection to his devotee. He is never influenced by the modes of material nature, but when he appears within this material world, he seems to act like an ordinary living entity under the spell of the modes of material nature. In fact, he is the overseer of this material creation, is not affected by the material modes of nature. He creates, maintains, and dissolves the whole cosmic manifestation. We wrongly think of Krishna and Balaram as ordinary human beings, like dizzy men who see the whole world reeling around them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is no one's son. He is actually everyone's father, mother, and supreme controller. There's no doubt about this. Whatever is already experienced,
whatever is not being experienced, whatever is already in existence, not in existence or existing in the future, whatever is the smallest and whatever is the biggest, have no existence outside the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything rests on Him, but He is untouched by everything manifested. Nanda and Uddhava thus passed the whole night discussing Krishna. In the morning, the gopis prepared for morning arati by lighting their lamps and sprinkling butter mixed with yogurt. After finishing their Mangala arati, they engaged themselves in churning butter from yogurt. While the gopis were thus engaged, the lamps reflected on their ornaments made the ornaments still more bright. Their churning rods, their arms, their earrings, their bangles, their breasts, everything moved, and kumkum powder gave their faces a saffron luster comparable to the rising sun. While making sounds by churning, they also sang the glories of Krishna. The two sound vibrations mixed together ascended to the sky and sanctified the whole atmosphere. After sunrise, the gopis came as usual to offer their respects to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, but when they saw the golden chariot of Uddhava at the door, they began to inquire among themselves, what was the chariot and to whom did it belong? Some of them inquired whether Akrura, who had taken away Krishna, had returned. They were not very pleased with Akrura because, being engaged in the service of Kamsa, he took Krishna away to the city of Mathura. All the gopis conjectured that Akrura might have come again to fulfill another cruel plan. But they thought, we are now dead bodies without our Supreme Master, Krishna. What further act can he perpetrate against these dead bodies? While they were talking in this way, Uddhava finished his morning ablutions, prayers and chanting and came before them. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 45th chapter of Krishna. Uddhava visits Vrindavan.
Krishna Bhakti.
Jai. Okay.
Thank you.
Hope you all were absorbed in Krishna Katha, and hope the sound was better today. We'll continue tomorrow, chapter 46. Hare Krishna, sweet Krishna dreams.